The O Cannabis Conference and Expo returns to Toronto June 1st through the 3rd, and there's still some good booth locations available. This exciting event is free for cannabis retailers and will feature Tommy Chong receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award at the O Cannabis Industry Awards. For more information about exhibiting or to register to attend, go to ocannabis.com. That's OCANNABIZ.com. Today, we're going to take a look at an investor presentation from Acreage Holdings, just to give you guys an idea about the 7 tips to a successful investment deck. To let you guys know, we always take a look at 7 criteria. Number 1 being, does Acreage Holding identify their business plan goals? 2, do they know their audience? 3, do they understand the market? 4, have they identified needs and roadblocks? Number 5, do they know what sets a business apart? 6, will they introduce the team and products? And 7, have they created a summary and call to action? Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast to dive into Acreage Holdings investor presentation. Is Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney. Katrina, thanks for being back with us.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, let's see what we got here. I don't know how many slides we've got, but I'm guessing it's probably pretty deep. So, all right, first slide is their logo, forward-looking statements, and then investment highlights. So they're leading the multi-state operators, robust marketing opportunities, best-in-class operator with a defined growth strategy, financial excellence, and unparalleled access.
Well, we all know Acreage is huge, so this should be good.
Yeah, just kind of give us a nice little milestone here, idea about what all they have. Starting with our favorite slide, the total addressable market.
Woohoo!
It's worth gabillions.
Go billions.
All right, so another little milestone here, their history. So phase 1 from 2012 to 2017 was an investment phase where they had a minority investments in cannabis operators focused on states with limited licenses. Phase 2 was 2017 through 2018 with they initiated roll-up strategy to gain a majority ownership. And then phase 3 was 2018 to present, integrating all of those assets into one solid management team and nationalizing that expansion. All right, so moving on to their acreage footprint. They go coast to coast here. So breaks this down by state and the population, percentage of ownership, and the number of licenses from producers and processors and retail. So they've got 78 retail or dispensary licenses and a combination between producer processor, 17 licenses.
At least they have licenses, Josh. That's a good sign.
That is good. So some of them are vertically integrated, some of them are just individual licenses, but it's definitely not an LOI or MOU, a memorandum of understanding or letter of intent. It means nothing. They are actually in business. So looking at some of their products and retail branding, so by year end, they're going to operate in 22 dispensaries across 14 states. So it looks like they're trying to get into more places or at least they have asterisks on Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Florida, and Maine.
I like this idea of naming their dispensaries the same in every state. That's wise. I think that helps a lot with marketing.
Definitely. So they do have a portfolio, though, allowing to build out differentiated brands, resonating with premium consumers, all the way down to brand offerings. So between value and premium, novice to connoisseur, they're trying to add as many as they can. But it looks like the majority of them are between premium and connoisseur.
Well, they're smart to do that. Don't focus on the $2 pre-roll, but don't focus on the $400 Canagar either. This is a wise marketing strategy.
I would agree. All right. So some of those brands, the Botanist, it's a health and wellness brand, and then Superflux, that's their premium lifestyle. Prime is a medical cannabis brand, and then Kind Bill concentrates. It's the distilling the essence of cannabis. So Wild Bill something. And then the Hedge, that's cultivating the future of cannabis by preserving its past. The finest quality.
It is important to maintain the old school strains, so that's good.
All right, so it might be getting into some of their teams. So it talks about their co-founder, CEO, and board of directors. So John Boehner, he's the old Speaker of the House who was anti-cannabis until somebody showed him one of those big old giant checks that he was walking around with. So after that, he's like, I am on board. I see the light.
Interestingly, is Brian Mulroney there, the former Prime Minister of Canada. Acreage has some people behind them.
Oh yeah, that is interesting. I wonder if he's the same guy who's there's an old Prime Minister of Canada who's really into UFOs, and I think it's the same guy.
Can't speak on that.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it's one of them, and it looks just like him. Maybe it is. I don't know. But moving on, experienced management team. Again, that's going to be number 6 on our 7 tips to a successful investment deck, and so they've definitely laid everybody out here, including the head of processing. We normally don't see that. It's a great way to poach talent right here.
Yeah. Also, their team involves a lot of people in finance. So what they're doing here is they are showing a potential investor the breadth of knowledge at this company. You have lawyers, you have finance people, you have media people. There's a judge here. This panel of management is what you as an investor want to see. And sometimes we see individuals that are very narrow in skill set trying to run a large company, and they can run into problems without the right team. And while this team has a lot of names on it, which are going to draw investors, of course, it gives our listeners an example of the breadth that a team needs. You need finance, you need media, you need legal, you need marketing. And this is a good example of that, Josh.
Absolutely. Yeah, the CEO came from Wall Street, so it makes sense that he would stack people in that role. So he has a chief financial officer, which makes sense because he's publicly traded. But on LinkedIn, I just saw a guy after 19 years finally decide to hire a CFO, and he wants to know who to hire. And I wasn't necessarily throwing my name in the ring, but I wanted to talk to him about it, mostly to ask him, why were you going to wait 9 years? I want to get you on the podcast and talk about your transition and why after 9 years you're finally just making that decision. But yeah, this is definitely a full grown company, when you have a chief marketing officer and chief financial officer, as well as the board of directors completely stacked from the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield out of Massachusetts. You have insurance, you have politics, both in Canada and the US. So great way to stack a board with the experience management as well. So that's pretty good.
As well as the grow individuals that are actually doing all the growing. They have knowledge as well. So this is great. This is a example so far that we should hold up.
All right, so after 19 pages, they go into an appendix. Some of those are the numbers, so it gets into capitalization and share structure.
I'd also like to note that they are on a stock exchange, which should also give individuals some confidence. Being on the CSE means that they're regulated and they have to file reports, unlike some of the smaller places that we see. These people have to justify their numbers in some way.
Yeah, if you're going to buy a security over the counter OTC, a lot of times they're not reporting anything. So definitely you want to make sure that they are remaining compliant and transparent, and that you're able to invest accordingly. Even if you're just gambling, you want to make sure that you're doing it with a company who's at least pretending to stay on the up and up. So some of their merger and acquisition status in California, that's pending, and Rhode Island and Florida, Connecticut, Massachusetts, all all pending merger and acquisition status. So they are actively still moving forward. This deck, I think, is from this year, is it not? November. I'm assuming that's November 2020. I think it's this year.
I think so, given the context.
Yeah.
Uh, but this is also an interesting strategy. Acreage does not go into state X that just licensed yesterday and build it from the ground up. Acreage is saying, all right, somebody has a license and somebody has got the ball rolling. Let's acquire them, which you and I have been talking about is a much easier road than starting from scratch. So they're pretty smart there.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we did a pitch deck review for one of the other major multi-state operators, and right after we did our pitch deck, they ended up changing their information. So within about a week of us launching the Curaleaf pitch deck, Curaleaf had updated their pitch deck. So some people were asking us why we did a pitch deck from 2018. And it was because that was the most recent one, even though on their website right now it's showing that they have one for available for 2020. This is from 2018. So what we saw was expectations for the last 2 years. So they obviously did expand, have been, and are a lot bigger than they were back then. All right. Having said all of that, let's take a look at the 7 tips to a successful investment deck. Number 1, did I identify the business plan goals?
Yes, they want to grow into other states and acquire more dispensaries and more producer processors. So yes, I think they did identify the plan goals.
Pretty hard to miss the goals. Either you're looking for money or you're looking to expand. So if you don't get that first one, then you're doing something really wrong. Number 2, did they know their investor audience?
I do think that they know their audience. The names on the board, the team behind them, they are trying to attract investor dollars. The way they provided some financials and projections out of where they want to be. Yes, I think they know their audience, their investor audience.
I would agree with that. Number 3, do they understand the market?
Given their dominance, I think they have to get the point there. And I also like their strategy of acquisition as opposed to starting from scratch. I think it's a wise way to get into the market that you and I have discussed before, Josh. So yes, I do think they do understand the market. While I would like some sales figures for their various brands. Uh, I think that's getting nitpicky, but yes, they understand what they're doing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'll give them a full point for understanding the market. Going after uh, connoisseur premium brands, I think is smart. Going after the garbage really isn't the way to go. What you need to do is bring the premium products down to more affordability, but with time that price will come down. So give them a full point. Moving on to identifying needs and roadblocks. I don't think I really saw anything about potential roadblocks about moving into the US or otherwise.
I think that they sort of did, but they did it with all those little asterisks and footnotes as they go into other markets. So the information is there, and I think they did disclose possible problems. And did they adequately disclose? I don't know. And also, as they move into other markets, I don't know that they really brought attention to that. But the other thing, they didn't really talk about the federal issues that they face. Being a multi-state operator, what does that mean when it's federally illegal and you're branding their dispensary, The Botanist, across the entire holdings of Acreage. That can be great, as I stated, but it also can be bad when the federal government looks at the botanist had $1 billion of sales last year. It puts a little bit of a target on your back, and they didn't address that at all, Josh. So half a point from me.
All right, number 5. Do they know what sets the business apart? What makes them any different than another MSO?
I think that they set themselves apart from the average cannabis business that we see. Single state trying to raise $3 million, that type of thing. But I don't think they talked about their competition as far as Curaleaf or MedMen or any of the other large multi-state operators. So okay, they have a percentage of the market. Who's number two? They say we're the best, we're the biggest, but who are they comparing themselves to? So they gave a lot of strategy, and they gave a lot of what they already own, but there's not a lot of comparison with anyone else. So I'm going to give them a half a point there as well, Josh.
Okay. I'd probably not give them anything for knowing what sets the business apart. It sounded like they were a decent multi-state operator, but I wouldn't know anything different from Trulieve to MedMen. Even as big of a dumpster fire as MedMen is, you got to explain how you're better or different. They did introduce the team though, so if if anything, you can take a look and see. Okay, you have an old Speaker of the House, an ex premier or president of Canada. You have members of insurance and finance and all of these mainstream, corporate conglomerates, and what you need. I mean, you need finance. You need to know about insurance risk management. You need to know about the political risk. Right now, today, as we're filming, the House is voting on the MORE Act. So those are all things that people have been spending years waiting for to take advantage and having first mover advantages. So without that proper team and the proper products, you won't have that first mover advantages. So I would definitely give them a full point. They didn't really go into a lot of their brands. They did go into the brands, but not the brand products necessarily. They just kind of said, we do all of these things, but they did lay it out.
I think they get a point for number 6, introducing the team and the product. And I would like to again encourage our listeners to take a look at their team. And again, you don't need these heavy hitters, but it advises an entrepreneur of what a fully fleshed out team looks like. And you don't have to have the Prime Minister of Canada on your board. But why did they pick somebody like that for their board? Well, for the government connections and the breadth of their knowledge. So maybe you can get a mayor or a former mayor or something along that lines. And of course, the finance, the law, the insurance, all of these things should be considerations for the entrepreneur who is forming their own entity and building their own entity up to a cannabis dominant business.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then number 7, creating a summary. So did they create let's get it back here. Did they create a summary with a call to action?
I did not see an ask. I did not see a call to action. And Josh, if I heard you correctly, this deck is actually from 2018, not 2020. Was that correct?
Yes.
And the reason they may not have an ask or a call to action is because they're trying to be safe about the SEC rules of who can invest in a company and who can't, and who is a qualified investor, who is an accredited investor. And if this is out on the interwebs, if I was their risk management person, I would say don't put an ask in it. So they don't have a call to action. They don't have a summary, but I understand why they don't. So I guess I'm going to give them a half a point. When you're on a regulated stock exchange, you have to be very careful of soliciting funds. So technically they don't, but I'm going to give them half a point because I know why they don't.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to give them 5 out of 7. We're gonna compromise a little bit on some of those. We'll give them 5 out of 7. That's 71%. That's not too bad for Acreage Holdings' latest investor presentation, according to what I found on their website, 2018. Although in a week they'll probably update it to 2020. All right, not too shabby. All right, with that, we're gonna roll this one up. I want to thank my guest, Katrina Gogowski, angel investor and attorney. Thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Hi, it's Justin Benton, host of the Miracle Plant Podcast, where we discuss this miracle plant that goes by so many names and how it's helping people in so many extraordinary ways. So if you love this plant and you want to hear a story that tugs on those heartstrings and learn more about this plant, then head on over to the Miracle Plant Podcast. You'll be glad you did.